Republicans have just gotten themselves into some serious trouble because the budget bill that just passed the MAGA majority in the House not only is historically unpopular, about 3/4 of Americans are disgusted with the $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts, but the bill also goes against everything they've been talking about, not only for the past year, but for the past month as well. It's going to bring up costs and send money back to the same agencies Elon Musk has claimed are corrupt. It is an absolute mess, and when Mike Johnson was called out for that, he crumbled in an interview with Kaitlan Collins that we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into that interview with Mike Johnson, I think it is only fair that we start with the most important element of this bill, the Medicaid cuts, which a Republican member of Congress was pressed on, and his response was not great.
Barely.
How much would you like to see cut from Medicaid?
Well, there is zero mention of cutting Medicaid. There is zero mention of cutting Social Security because you can't. But it is, again, it's a balancing thing that we have $26 trillion in debt and growing. What you have is the savings by removing the fraud, abuse, right, and efficiency, and then you have the expenditures are the tax provisions, and the tax provisions do cost money, but we don't want to go in debt doing this. I mean, you have to recognize that $26 trillion, the reason why we're here is spending, relax, full back on the spending, and make sure we have a plan that we don't go in debt with the taxes provisions extending that, again, that costs money, and also the savings. We got to make sure they balance out. And that's what the argument is about. It's just a simple ledger sheet.
But of course, you know that this blueprint did call on the Energy Committee, which oversees Medicare and Medicaid, that they have to cut at least, what, $880 billion. And plenty of people look at that and say, you can't get there without cutting Medicaid. So again, my direct question, which you didn't really address, is how much would you be willing to cut from Medicaid?
It's a balance. Again, it's a ledger sheet.
So
if we're going to do tax provisions,
you'd be willing to cut some?
Then you have to make sure it's balanced. What we're going to do is not go in debt. Now, $850 billion is a goal. Again, it's over 10 years cycle. Do you think there's fraud in there at that scale? Likely there's pretty close, but there's also things we can do, like work requirements, like efficiency. Government is the last resort, it's not the first. So when you look at Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security is off because it's reconciliation, but it doesn't mean you can't make improvements on it. And get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse.
If you're going to tell your constituents, again, waste, fraud, and abuse is some. You're willing to look for some cuts in Medicaid, yes?
I will look at getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. And again, Elon Musk has said it could be $1 trillion with a T, $1 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse. But again, that's what he says. We have to confirm that's what it is. And if it is confirmed, then you can have the savings of it. So we're not going to cut benefits. What we're going to do is make it more efficiently. And if there's fraud, waste, and abuse, I know America doesn't want fraud, waste, and abuse. We see the abuse in USAID. We see it in programs. We see it in the spending. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, it's no different. If there's fraud, waste, and abuse, we have an obligation to go after it.
This is how we have to frame the question. We recently had Senator Tina Smith on the show. It was an incredible interview I recommend that you check out. And she brought up the fact that during the vote-a-rama in the Senate, Democrats introduced bill after bill asking Republicans, at what point do you think we should raise taxes on people? Is it making over $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion? Can we start raising taxes on those people? They continued to say no. I think that's the perfect way to frame the question. How much do you want to cut from Medicaid? How many people do you want to go bankrupt because of a medical emergency? How many people do you want to see die because they can't afford their health care? That's the type of question you should ask Republicans. And those are the type of questions Kaitlan Collins was asking Mike Johnson, and the reason he couldn't answer.
Certainly an absurd notion, but they're standing by that. So
CR go, do you believe?
Well, we haven't negotiated that yet, but if it's a CR, it may be an entire year-long CR with some anomalies on it. You know how all this works, but it's not what we prefer. We would like to do individual appropriations bills, but it takes both parties to negotiate that, and right now, the Democrats are trying to, it looks like, trying to set up a government shutdown. We can't allow that to happen, and we won't.
Well, you just talked about how important the work that Elon Musk is doing is. If you pass a continuing resolution, won't that just refund all the programs that he says he's cutting that are full of waste, fraud, and abuse?
No, look, you can, that's why I say you add anomalies to a CR. You can increase some spending, you can decrease some spending, you can add language that says, for example, the dramatic changes that have been made to USAID would be reflected in the ongoing spending. It would be a clean CR, mostly, I think, but with some of those changes to adapt to the new realities here. And the new reality is less government, more efficiency, better return for the taxpayers. And I think that's something everybody should welcome.
Just asking because, as you know, your home state of Louisiana, about 80% of the Medicaid spending there is covered by the federal government. We've seen it in a lot of red states, of course, across the United States. It's not just a blue state issue. As you have seen through this, and we've seen the blowback that some Republicans in your caucus that are getting when they go back home to their districts, worried about these cuts or worried about what DOJ is doing. Do you have concerns that that's anything that Democrats will be able to use to run against those Republicans?
No, because no, I don't. Because the videos you saw of the town halls were for paid protesters in many of those places. These are Democrats who went to the events early and filled up the seats. If the videos had panned outside the building,
you can't argue they were all paid protesters, though, Mr. Speaker.
Many of them were.
A Republican acknowledged they were his constituents.
One Republican acknowledged they were his constituents. That's fantastic. Okay, but they had Democrats come and fill the seats early, all right? This is an old playbook that they pulled out and ran, and it made it look like that what is happening in Washington is unpopular. But I'm going to tell you, Kaitlan, the American people are behind what's happening. The DOJ efforts is polling over 80% right now. They want us to find efficiencies in the federal government. They want the government to be smaller and leaner and more accountable to the taxpayers. And that's what these efforts are all about. That's what the Republican Party is about. That's what our commitment is to do, to make government work better for the people. This is a restoration of common sense above everything else. And I think the American people are going to remain in favor of what's happening here.
Okay, those lawmakers do also represent Democrats. That doesn't mean they were paid to show up if they're upset about this, but.
So I wanted to play those two clips. Of course, the first talking about DOJ and the second, the response to DOJ. But Mike Johnson didn't have a real answer. If you're claiming all these agencies are so corrupt and so broken, why don't you change that? Now, I don't want Congress to defund USAID or the IRS or go after the Department of Education. But if they did, through legislation, it would be legal, right? I don't want them to, obviously, but it would be different from an unelected billionaire just deciding that he wants to get rid of the agencies on a whim. But they're not doing that because they're just merely an extension of Donald Trump. They want to serve him. They want to serve Elon, and they want to give them all the power. It is crazy. And what's crazier, and I guess we shouldn't be surprised, though, is the response from Republicans who are finally actually waking up and making Mike Johnson, very clearly, pretty uncomfortable. And they're starting to run away from that. And new reporting from MSNBC details just how scared Republicans are. And I want to take a look at that right here.
Brand new reporting today suggests that Republicans are indeed feeling the heat for handing over the keys of the government to Donald Trump and Elon Musk. NBC News is reporting this about those town halls being held by the GOP caucus. Quote, party leaders suggest that if lawmakers feel the need to hold such events, they do tele-town halls, or at least vet attendees to avoid scenes that become viral clips. It's according to GOP sources. The viral nature of video clips spreading from one district to another means a bad confrontation in safe Republican territory could influence voters in battlegrounds. They are, of course, talking about viral moments like these.
Elon Musk is ignoring a bunch of financial stuff. He is in the Treasury. He is trying to get access to our tax returns. Are you going to subpoena him at some point?
When will you stand up to them and say that is enough?
It's not up to Musk.
You're surrendering to billionaires, you coward!
My concern right now, and I think I speak for a lot of Americans, is Elon Musk.
Yes. I
I take education very seriously. I think AI can be transformative.
School lunches.
Why is this being jammed down the pipe so rushed and sloppily?
So,
Use a scalpel.
my understanding is when you say you have this many employees that you have to cut, that organization decides who they're going to cut. Now, they may make...
It's clear from all the writings of our founding fathers that our great republic was never meant to be ruled by a dictator nor a king.
Why is a supposedly conservative party taking such a radical and extremist and sloppy approach to this?
If you're going to just yell at me, that's not going to be an effective tone. Yeah, we want to be effective and controlled, because if everybody's yelling, it's not going to be an effective tone.
Can you talk to us like actual people? That would be really helpful.
Instead of like we're idiots.
Quote, but we're pissed. They feel that way in ruby red Republican districts. All across the country, GOP members of Congress are being confronted by their own constituents, their own voters, largely over this chaos greenlit by Donald Trump, but very much carried out by Elon Musk. Elon Musk right now is about as popular 1 month into the second Trump presidency as Trump was at the lowest point of his first, right after the January 6th insurrection. A Washington Post Ipsos poll finds that 34% of respondents approve of how Elon Musk is doing his job. 49% disapprove, 14% are not sure. Just 56% of all Republicans approve of Elon Musk shutting down any federal program he deems wasteful or unnecessary. In reaction to all of this, the very low poll numbers, the very public backlash to the chaos, often cruel treatment of federal workers and the agencies that help keep the country running, Republicans are squirming. Politico reports this, quote, Elon Musk is beginning to wear out his welcome with congressional Republicans.
You now have Republican members of Congress actively running away from their constituents, wanting to schedule their town halls virtually so that they can't be confronted to their faces, so that they can hide, so that they can mute people or kick them out. This is no surprise from the free speech party, but it's pretty shocking that we've gotten here this quickly, that it's gone so badly for them so fast. Of course, this is what we warned about. This is the I told you so presidency, but man, you guys screwed this up pretty quickly, didn't you? I wish those midterms were tomorrow, but I guess the fact they're far away gives us a little bit more time to work on our narrative, which I guess is take away Elon's power, please. But we are going to be talking about that every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.